Here we go. We are back again. It is Thayer 312. Dom, how are we feeling?
I mean, I'm feeling just fine. It's
Just fine.
preseason week 2, everything's just kind of going, but that does mean that with that in the book, we are 1 week closer to the start of the NFL season. We're
I
about three
can't
weeks
wait.
out now, so it's ramping up there. A lot of good's happening, so
hmm Yeah,
yeah.
definitely getting excited about it. A lot more is happening here. We also should be getting real football this week, correct? Let me just double check and make sure that is the case, that we do have real football this week. Saturday? Yeah. This
That's week 0.
Saturday, week 0, we have real football starting noon
Hmm.
on Saturday with North Carolina TCU, 3 o'clock San Jose State USC. We have a full slate. We have real football again. I cannot wait. It is great. We have a big show today. Let's just start there. We have a big show. We are doing a college football preview. We are going to have on, I cannot wait for it, Bill Bender of the Sporting News, who's been with the Sporting News for nearly 2 decades now.
Amazing.
2025 president of the Football Writers Association of America. He is going to come on. We're going to talk some college football. He'll be on here in about 8-ish minutes, give or take. But, we're very excited about that. Um, yeah, like first show with a real person on here.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Hey man, we got to do it eventually. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Um, Also, just quick little news tidbit. Kayshon Boutte getting traded to the Texans for Jalen Reed in the 7th. Um, Sorry, I'm just texting him back here.
No worries. Yeah, so Booty goes down to Houston, who has been dealt with losing Jaden Higgins for the remainder of the year. So already thin with the health concerns that Tank Dell carries year over year. Nico's only one guy and he can't truly do it. So having that number 2 in there for the outside truly kind of helps that offense kind of mesh better. I like this a lot, hopefully for Stroud. I've had my concerns with him for the past 2 seasons now. Those don't go away anytime
Mhm.
soon, but at least this kind of helps him, and hopefully he'll be able to find his step again.
Yeah, no, I love this. Him getting a legitimate number 2 is massive. They already got David Montgomery in there to kind of fix the run game, which I love that. They rebuilt the O line, brought in some proven vets that can handle certain spots on that offensive line. I've heard nothing but good things about Keelan Rutledge out of camp,
Hmm.
the guard that they drafted, that they have been playing at center, which I like that too. There's a lot to like with this Texans team, and I'll just soft launch. I'm going to be very bullish on them come prediction week.
Interesting.
Like I'm liking everything that's going on with the Texans here. But so there's
Interesting.
that. Also, since we're just like in the process of big things happening here between the trade, us taking another step. I got a little something for you, Dom.
Another one. Wow. Now that is a shock.
Yeah, got another one coming.
That was quick.
Well, yeah, happened pretty quickly there. Yeah, yeah. So there's that. I figured it was a good time to do that, especially because I haven't told my dad yet, and I know he's going to be watching this. So that's just
Well
going to be
then,
even funnier for me. I kind of said that
congratulations.
I said that to the wife earlier. I was just like, what if I just tell Dom when we're
Dude,
recording? because I know my dad's going to be watching. So
Yeah,
there you go, pops.
that's
Have some fun watching
That
this
is
one here.
funny.
I am looking forward to the phone call that I receive for this here.
Yeah, let me know how that goes tomorrow.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, the second it gets, he gets a hold of this one, I'm sure I'm going to get an angry voice. He's probably not going to call me till I'm at work tomorrow night when I can't answer him. Be like, "What?"
Yeah,
So there's that.
funny.
I figured we'd kind of touch base on that
That's
one there.
awesome. No, that's awesome.
But outside of that, I will touch on this as we're kind of killing some time here. But Deshaun Watson officially named the Week 1 starter for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've kind of gone a little back and forth with this. I mean, obviously they were in a lose-lose situation
mhm.
with actual skill set at the quarterback position. Sean Watson's kind of fallen off the cliff, hasn't really played a ton in the last 5 years, so like that's obviously hindered him. And his skill set was heavy used as a younger guy who was mobile. He's no longer mobile between his
Yeah, he's
Achilles and
broken.
knee.
Yeah.
So it's that aspect of his game's kind of been taken away. It's always the fear of when you have a mobile quarterback with tough accuracy issues beyond there. So now losing that, his
Hey,
whole
there we
deal
go.
is just kind of out the window.
We were just talking about Deshaun Watson. Bill, thank you so much for making an appearance on here. Cannot thank you enough for that.
I appreciate it. No, thank you.
Perfect. This is Dom. You have not
Dom.
met him yet,
Hey, Bill, how's it going?
It's nice
Thank
to
you
do
for
this.
hopping on.
Nice to do this face to face rather than just over the phone like we've done for the past,
Yeah.
few weeks here. But yes, again, Bill Bender, Sporting News, nearly almost 2 decades now, right? 2007.
Yeah, been doing it since 2007. Yeah, so almost 20 years at Sporting News. I think this will be the 20th year technically, and a large chunk of that doing college football, which can't complain. I always say it was I think the first weekend I started there, it was 2 days after Mike Gundy's "I'm 40" rant. So that's how long I've been there. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but that was a crazy day.
That's awesome.
That's incredible.
That's awesome.
Honestly, like that's covering that is awesome. I just remember being. I mean, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I would have been 11 years old, 10, almost 11 years old when watching that on SportsCenter.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are young. That's okay. But been around I've been around the Big Ten, been around college football for quite a bit. Obviously, in talking to you over the last couple articles, I know you guys have had good ideas about college football. I could tell the passion's there. So yeah, we can get into it wherever you guys want to go.
Yeah, so let's start at the top here. We'll kind of work our way through the top 25 to an extent here. So just starting with Ohio State. Are they inevitable? Are they being inflated by the AP poll? Because I was looking at, of course I closed out of it here, but the Sporting News, you guys had them at 2 versus the coaches in the AP poll having them at 1.
Yeah, I think they're interchangeable with Indiana. Ohio State, as you know, I live in Central Ohio. I'm in that bubble. I went over to practice a couple weeks ago. Not necessarily like a huge Buckeye fan by any means, but they're really good. They're really talented. With Jeremiah Smith, Julian saying their offense is going to score a ton of points. When you said inevitable, I kind of pondered the question for a minute because I was like, yeah, I mean, it's inevitable that they're going to probably win 10 or 11 games. But, if you look at their schedule, this is the toughest schedule I've ever seen them have.
It is brutal. Yeah, I was going to say, they got that little 3-game stretch there where it's Indiana, Michigan, and Oregon all kind of sandwiched together, correct?
Yeah, they go to USC. They go to Indiana.
That's what it is.
They go to Texas. And the USC trip's interesting to me because, at least in my very long, as you guys reminded me how old I am, very long adulthood, the Big Ten struggles sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of the times when they travel out west. And that's been one of the adjustments both ways for the West Coast schools and the Big Ten, traditional Big Ten schools. So, I could see that being a tough out when they go to USC there in that 3-game stretch with Indiana, Oregon. All that before the Michigan game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is brutal there. Like I said, it felt like we were kind of just barreling down the tracks towards Ohio State being the number one or preseason number one in both polls, and just kind of like sitting there.
Would you have Indiana or Ohio State, or who? Like they're the top 7's interchangeable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any one of those 7 teams got votes. Who would you guys? Because I love seeking other opinions. Who would you guys have number 1?
For me, honestly, I'd probably lean towards Oregon being number 1, and I was going to lean into talking about them here in a minute, just because I trust the quarterback more. Like, Julian Sayin as the NFL prospect, I'm not buying that at all. But I do understand that, like, being at Ohio State and just being a college quarterback is a completely different animal than being an NFL prospect by any standard, really. So I get it, but I have such a tough time with Julian Sayin to like really buy into Ohio State just going on this insane run, if that makes sense.
Sure. But again, it's college. You're looking at it
right. Yes. Like my brain goes that way.
Yeah. Julian Sains may not necessarily be the size guy that you look for in the NFL, but for what Ohio State needs him to be, he's the perfect fit.
Right.
So
Agreed.
In that realm, 100% Ohio State, deservedly so, is the number 1. I like Oregon a lot. I like Notre Dame a bit with their prospects that they have. Leonard Moore is unbelievable and could be the best player in this draft.
Well, you said so Oregon, and kind of going into what you guys wanted to talk about next there. Dante Moore's really good. And I think with any one of those 7 teams I mentioned, whether it was Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame, Miami, all the 7 schools that had first place votes. It's interesting because we do I don't get trapped into it as much because I try as best as I can to separate. I always say it this way. I don't really care how they play in the NFL while they're in college. I'll do the NFL draft talk. I'll study them, but I always use Trace McSorley as the ultimate example. I never cared about his NFL outlook. I said he's a hell of a college player, enjoyed watching him play. I think he's still in the league too. I think he's hanging around in the league somewhere, but
he's bouncing around something.
Yeah,
like
he's
that.
bounced around a bit, but every time I see him in the preseason, I get happy. So, you could say the same thing about Dante Moore, a guy that bypassed the draft last year. One thing I do like about Oregon that I think you guys are on, you look at their defensive front. Mateo Uiagalelei, Amari Washington, Bear Alexander's back. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. Is he 6th year now?
Yeah. So they're going to be formidable on that side of the ball. They're going to be very good. And, if you want to throw them number 1, I'll hear it. I know we at Sporting News have Indiana, and a big reason why is we like the mix of talent that they have coming back. It's faith in Hoover, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Why are we going to bet against Cignetti when that's all I did last year, and all he did was win right in his face?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Don.
No, I was going to say Indiana also, outside of Jeremiah Smith, it probably has the best wide receiver room in the country with Charlie Becker and Nick Marsh. So you have 2 formidable guys on the outside that could help Hoover out.
Yeah, for sure. So they've got anyway. It's wild, and I've been around the Big Ten a very long time, and having 3 national championship contenders that it's like I don't even think twice about it. I'm like, yeah, they could absolutely win it. It's crazy to think about, and they're going to play each other a little bit. But Indiana, like I said, if you like Ohio State better, that's great. If you like Oregon better, you mentioned Notre Dame. I know we're going to talk about them as well. Been around Notre Dame a long time as well. I went to a Catholic school growing up. I told Asher this. I'm not a Notre Dame fan. Most of my buddies are. So there's a little bit of a soft spot for him, especially after what happened to him last year.
Yeah. No, that's entirely fair. Yeah, I just wanted to ask one last one there just because we brought up Indiana. I was going to ask about Oregon and Indiana just kind of being in the way for Ohio State there. But we kind of covered a lot of Oregon there. Am I overlooking how good Curt Cignetti is? Because, I do think he's a phenomenal coach. I don't think it's an Ed Orgeron situation there by any means at all. But I also feel like there's part of me that's like trying to wrap my head around Indiana being a football power too. You know what I mean? Like I think it's those two conflicting things that like we briefly talked about college football last week, and we were kind of just I don't even think we really talked about Indiana that much outside of like the receivers, but like can he do this again?
For sure. And I don't even hesitate to say it because part of it is he's just a football coach. He is a football all the time guy. One of the interesting things when we were around the title game last year and the NFL rumors started popping up, I think the Steelers' job just popped open. So there was this, will Curt Cignetti go to Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh guy. It's easy to do those stories, obviously, when they're in the moment. He expressed no interest whatsoever. Straight football guy. Straight, I think he's just an old school, do the job, go home, watch the film. His talent evaluation is incredible, and his talent development's really good. And we can say part of that is, okay, these James Madison guys were 24 years old, whatever. I guess I haven't paid as much attention to him as I should. I would assume D'Angelo Pons will be a good player at this level, at the NFL level. I don't know how he's doing for the Jets. I just assumed he'd be okay. Some of those guys. Fernando will be all right. I watched his first preseason start. I think there's a learning curve there for sure. But as you guys know, and I'm sure you just by judging how you follow it, guys like Fernando, you get caught up in the media coverage of it, where it's like the expectations become just so out of this world. It might take a minute there in Las Vegas for certain with him.
Yeah, we talked about that. I don't want to see him until at least like week 8, as I think the window that I saw for him to kind of start there. And Elijah Surratt has gotten nothing but good coverage out of the Ravens camp, as following that kind of thing there. So nice to see that some of the Indiana guys are making their way through there. But kind of touched on Notre Dame there. This might be. I'm from Penn State country. He is from Pitt country. We hate Notre Dame. Is how we were,
I was
brought up. Yeah, exactly. It's, we're indoctrinated into the Notre Dame hate. Am I falling for the hype there? Because, I'm very bullish on this Notre Dame roster and this team, just in general. I love Marcus Freeman. The roster looks fantastic. Am I getting too excited about them?
They're going to be really good. I like the back end. Dom mentioned Leonard Moore. I mean, that's right there, probably best player in the country on defense. His corner, their secondary is ridiculous. And Drake Bowen's a linebacker. Bronte Johnson was on our preseason All-American team. I could do the roll call on the offensive side of the ball as well around C.J. Carr. I think one of the obvious, I got to see it, is how does Aeneas Williams do around Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price being gone? The receivers, they'll need some guys to step up. They love their offensive line. And I do love the motivation factor. They were snubbed. I don't know how you guys addressed that last year. They were snubbed. They should have been in the playoff. And you can hate on Notre Dame from any corner of the country. They should have been in the playoff over Alabama. There's no doubt in my mind.
I don't disagree.
And
I think we kind of touched on that. We were kind of like, should they have been in? Yes. Do we love this little deal that they're getting? Also, no.
Well, I mean, that's the question: is how does the relationship go moving forward now that they have an agreement that if they're in the top 12, they're in. I've always wondered openly, and you, Dom, you being a Pitt guy, you could tell me. I wonder how long the ACC will do this. I mean, on one hand, it is very profitable. On the other, I do it from both ways. From Notre Dame's side, if I'm Notre Dame's AD, Bavacqua, and you're telling me, hey, you have playoff access, you can schedule you want, we're going to give you this 5-game arrangement, and you're cool. That's how you do it. I'd be like, yeah, I'm taking that too. I mean, and oh, by the way, you have your own TV deal. I'm not going to say no. So I wonder if that relationship's going to be strained each time that Notre Dame gets in the playoff at the expense of somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I talk about with Asher all the time. It makes no sense why Notre Dame hasn't joined the ACC yet. They participate in every other collegiate sport within the ACC. Mm-hmm. The fact that they are still foregoing it in the NFL when it's their easiest path forward is beyond me. I think at this point it is just they're ego driven because they want to prove to everyone else in the nation that being an independent school can still lead to positive outcomes when it has given them a lot of wavering feelings coming from the outside perspective. So, like a lot of fans of other uh, schools are looking at them like they're crazy because they won't just adhere to the one thing that would make the most sense.
I agree. I on the flip side of it, the back and forth, I find it entertaining. I find the back and forth
100%.
between Miami and Notre Dame last year, and when the ACC network ran that game for 24 hours straight. I love stuff like that. I'm into petty. I don't know. You guys, the more I talk with you guys on this,
Yes.
and I'm hoping this isn't the only time we do this season, but you're going to figure out real quick about me. I'm really into the petty stuff. And I think that
I
works.
feel like
both
that's most
ways.
of our brand.
Good. So we'll be fine. And heading into that November 7th game with those two teams, I'm really looking forward to it because, as again, not to date myself, but I'm old enough to remember Catholics versus convicts and just how amazing that game was. I was like 9, so I can't sit here and break down film of it other than to say I just remember, my buddy's parents, dad, just the people going nuts about this game, and it was really cool. So I'm glad that the heat is back between those two schools and looking forward to that matchup in November.
Yeah, and I emailed Mike DeCourcy about this. I just had like a random question, kind of thinking about it, and I was saying to him about like Notre Dame, or posed a question about them with the scheduling issues that they've had. Like, yes, they got USC back on the schedule, but that doesn't start until 2030. A lot can change in the next 4 years as it seems like we're heading certain directions. But I'm like, wouldn't with all the issues that they're having, with just getting scheduling, isn't there going to come a time that they're going to, shouldn't they want to start pushing for this, like the Super League kind of concept, because they're struggling to get people onto their schedule? Like if they're getting stuck with, the rebuilt Pac-12 and Mountain West or MAC schools and things like that, where you're not going to have the amount of good schools on the schedule, even with the deal that they have with the college football playoff, like shouldn't they start wanting to push for certain changes?
Yeah, for sure. I think as I break down the entirety of the playoff, and so let me answer your question with a question. If you guys could pick the number 12, 16, 20, 24, 8, I'll even give you 8, 4, 2. What would you pick?
Honestly, I'd go to 8. I think less is more with college football. Yeah.
I think the more you expand it, the more difficult it is, and the harder it is to leave teams off. Like in last year's case with Notre Dame, Alabama, that whole mess. So when you make it more constricting, I think it's easier for people to accept that.
Fair. I would go, I don't want to expand more, but if you're giving me the choice of expansion, and Asher went through, Asher has some great ideas about what this sport could look like, should look like maybe in 20 years, or 10 years. I mean, 2030 is not out of the
That's
question.
when all the TV deals come up. Yeah.
Correct. 2030 will be a big date in the sport. So that's my way of saying, to me, if they're going to try to go to 24, I would compromise by saying, why not go to 20? Do some playing games, because it eliminates the idea of a 4-loss team, a 5-loss team getting into the playoffs. So those are things that I don't want to see, is having a 4-loss team or a 5-loss team in the playoff. And I sketched out what that might look like with playing games, and you'd have something like, what was it? Oklahoma. Wait, not Oklahoma. They were in Michigan, Utah, Texas. I want to say Texas ACC champion, so Virginia or Duke, Vandy and Tulane, Arizona, USC. And I said, no, more people are still going to watch Indiana, Ohio State, and Georgia, Texas, or Texas, or Georgia, Alabama last year. Point being, I think the playing games are a natural replacement in some ways, though. and it could work in that way.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like even when college basketball went from 64 to 68 with the playing games, I can tell you right now, they've been doing that for about a decade now. I don't think I've watched a single one of those games. And college, like March Madness, is that Thursday, the first day of the tournament, or first weekend of the tournament. That's my favorite sports weekend of the year. As a football guy, like that Thursday, I take off every year. I make sure I am available to watch all those games. I don't think I've ever watched one of the playing games because I'm like, it just doesn't
feel like
UCLA,
the tournament.
Yeah.
Correct.
And UCLA like went on that run, but like outside of that, I'm like, do I want to watch Belmont play Long Beach State to find out who's going to get crushed by Virginia? Like it just doesn't do as much for me. And I know that Indiana, through 2 years of the 12-team playoff, is the only one to win after having a first-round bye. But also, those teams, when you get to the next round, it's just like it loses its steam right away. And I feel like we're drawing it out and avoiding the fact that every year there's 7 to 8 teams that can actually win it.
You know what? You're exactly right. I always say, 6 to 8 is that number of teams that I truly believe can win the national title. I think we should give 12 a little more run. That's another option here.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
we've done it for 2 years. Like, you haven't really, and you can't say it's not exciting from the standpoint of, Miami was a 10 seed and they will go to the championship. I thought the Miami Ole Miss game, no dog in the fight either, no care who wins the game, thrilling
Great
game.
game.
Great game,
So
right?
a lot of fun.
So, title game was fun. That was closer than we maybe expected. Seeing Miami beat Ohio State, I mean, it wasn't necessarily fun around here in Columbus, but it was a cool, like, okay, so you can beat somebody if you've got two unbelievable edge rushers and a team that they looked like they were still mad from the Fiesta Bowl in 2003. Great game, great football game. So
I mean, it helps having a 27-year-old quarterback too at that point.
It didn't hurt them,
24.
But, I think as you get into the question too, we'll take a school like Texas this year. Is like, do you change your idea of what success means in college football now? I think you absolutely. It's funny you mentioned basketball, Asher, because I think that's where we're headed. Where nobody's talking about the fact that Georgia won back-to-back SEC championships. It's Georgia lost in the playoff the last 2 years. What are they going to do about it? And it's so interesting to me as somebody that loves both college basketball and college football that's the way we're doing it now. That's the way we're gauging success.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it does feel much more like hyperbolic, especially with football. Like, I mean, you have your blue bloods for basketball for sure, but like it feels like that kind of range of what success is in college football is so much more intense. Like a Georgia, for example, and that's perfect lead into the next two here because I was going to ask you about Texas and USC, really. Can Texas kind of get over the hump here with Sark, and can Lincoln Riley rebuild this thing? Because both of those coaches came in with a lot of hype. Riley more than Sark did, both kind of taking over former powers that have kind of been middling before they showed up. What are we looking at with those two schools?
Texas, there's a lot of pressure to win it all. And I don't know how fair it is because I still think it's like, it's hard to win a national championship. They did, if you go by basketball logic, they've been in the Final Four 2 of the last 3 years. They went there with Quinn Ewers and that team, lose to Washington in a game that really came down to the last snap. Then they play Ohio State tough, some questionable goal line calls, and they lose that one. Now, Arch amplifies it. I think their roster amplifies it. It's not just Cam Coleman. It's 2 really good running backs. It's Rasheem Biles from Pitt, via where I'm at, Don, by the way. He's via Pickerington, Ohio, where I live. So it's good. I'm sorry he left Pitt, but love watching Rasheem play.
He's an animal, and I'm glad he's going to find a home down there. So hopefully he helps boost that defense up in Texas a little bit, but I'm definitely going to miss him next year.
Yeah, fun guy to watch play. So they've got this Cadillac roster. Now, what are they going to go do with it? One of the stats I point out all the time this summer was they're 0-5 against Ohio State and Texas the last two, or Ohio State and Georgia the last two seasons. Those are heavyweight fights. That's who if you guys, I don't know if you're a Steelers fan, you judge them by how they do against the Ravens. Losing
Yes.
5 in a row against the Ravens wouldn't go well, and vice versa. If the Ravens are losing to the Steelers 5 in a row, you'll measure against the Bengals, but that's the game you measure them against.
Yeah, no, I know. I know that all too well with the Lamar Jackson discourse there struggling against the Steelers. It's all good, but
Well, it's been a good day for you guys in that division with the Browns eliminated themselves from even trying to win a football game today.
They did that 3 months ago, let's be honest.
But so there's that. But to get back on the topic, sorry, but you guys are fun. The Texas, there will be a lot of pressure there. USC, different kind of pressure. I think they've at least got to get to the playoff. Love the running game. Love Jaden. You want to talk about like an underrated Heisman candidate? Jaden Mayava is probably that. Because if USC goes to the playoff, that means he's going to have monster numbers. You've seen Lincoln Riley produce 1, 2, 3 Heisman guys, and Jalen Hurts was close. So would not surprise me at all if he had a monster year. But here it is again. They do play Indiana. They do play Ohio State. They do play Oregon. So, temper your expectations. I am excited to watch them this weekend, though, against San Jose State. I want to see if that defense is for real, or at least what it looks like, without breaking down all the X's and O's of it. What do they look like with Gary Patterson as their defensive coordinator? That's a big key for me.
Yeah, no, I was kind of thinking about that with like Sark and Texas. Like, I weirdly feel like there's more pressure on Lincoln Riley at USC than there is with Sark in Texas. Both of them, again, coming into situations that weren't great prior to their arrival. But I think the Sark stuff is, again, Texas and Texas football, it just explodes. The second you start getting good again, the expectations kind of pile on. And then you add in a Manning family tree into that whole thing. It takes it to a whole new level, which I think he's been great over the last, especially, 5 years that he's been there. Like, he's rebuilt that program. He's established them again. Lincoln Riley made the move to USC from Oklahoma with so much more hype, and there was like more pedigree to his name when he made that move that he was getting criticized for going from Oklahoma to USC, just chasing the money and everything like that. So I do think that there is a little bit more on him. Am I I don't think I'm crazy for that, but I'm asking, am I crazy for thinking that there's more pressure on Lincoln Riley to get USC back to the whole powerhouse that they were?
No, I mean, I think to your point though, it would surprise some people to know that, I may have told you this in our last conversation. Lincoln Riley has a lower winning percentage than Brian Kelly did when he got fired at LSU.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was kind of eye-opening to me, at least this summer. So, they've struggled with the travel. They've struggled with, again, the heavyweight fights. I know they beat Michigan at home last year. Had an opportunity to beat them the year before, but it really comes down to that defense. And to your point on Texas, I'm the one, and this question has many answers, but I think Sark has more pressure on him than Arch does this year. And Arch has a ton on him, but Arch's pressure is coming next year when he goes to the NFL. Whenever he goes to the NFL, wherever he goes in the NFL, which Cleveland is one of those candidates, by the way. The amount of pressure on Arch at that level is because of his uncles. We all know that. So I think the pressure does fall more on Sark this year. Both of them collectively, the whole enterprise, but it really starts in that week 2 game against Ohio State.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Speaking of quarterbacks, supposed to be a great year for the NFL draft with quarterbacks there. Who should we be looking at? Who has a chance? Who's your biggest riser, your biggest faller in terms of NFL prospects, going into it?
Right? Take your pick out of all these guys from those top 7 teams. Darian Mensah could crawl up boards, though. I've watched him do it at Tulane. I've watched him do it at Duke. I'm going to assume that he works out well with Shannon Dawson and throwing to Malachi Toney in a pretty loaded group of Miami receivers.
Mhm.
So I just watched Cam Ward. Regardless of what your opinion is on Cam Ward now, he was number one pick. So Mensah could be a guy that gets into that discussion. Arch, I can't see him rising or falling anymore. He'll get drafted where he's drafted. I feel like we're going to say he fell if he's not drafted number one. That's not entirely fair. Julian saying so we're going to have a disagreement here, which is good because if we agree all the time, it'd be bad. I like Julian saying more than others. I think because of his accuracy, he's put on the weight is one thing. I think for a quarterback with a 77% completion percentage, and I understand fully who he's throwing to, I don't care who you're throwing to. That's still incredible. And he almost gets penalized because he's throwing to all those guys. Well, he's going to be throwing to those guys in the NFL too. Or alternative is if he's the bust, it could look a little bit like what Tua looked like in college, where I did think the same thing with Tua. I thought, hey, it's not his fault he's throwing to Judy and Waddle and all the guys that Alabama had at the time. And it hasn't worked out quite as bad. I do think the concussions have had a little bit to do with that along the way.
Right. It was at least productive. It just wasn't translating to wins, and especially the 45-degree marker that it is for him that he just can't win if it's lower than that.
Right. So, who did I leave out of those potential first guys? We've talked about Dante Moore a little bit earlier. Like his game a lot. Hoover's one that stands to gain a lot if he has a monster year because the talent that he flashed at TCU was really good. And then you get into, we'll sees, a little bit with Gunnar Stockton. Perfect day two guy to me. Perfect day two guy. He can ball a little bit, throws in the intermediate range well. And then I'm thinking, who did we leave out of all these contenders?
Nico
CJ
is
Carr.
available.
I was going to say
CJ Carr and
Carr.
Nico were the two.
There's the most to gain guy right there. If you think about this, and I'm going to do some more Notre Dame propaganda on your podcast here for a minute.
It's all good. Like I said, I'm already bought in. You can just sell me more.
You'll actually like the stats, though. So has a chance to be their first Heisman winner since Tim Brown in 1987. Has a chance to be their first national championship quarterback since 1988, Tony Rice. And has a chance to be their first-round quarterback since Brady Quinn, who, by the way, I hope you at least remember Brady Quinn, guys.
We do remember Brady Quinn,
quite well.
Yeah.
Quite well.
So, you got those three. If he hits that, trifecta and wins a national title and wins a Heisman and is a first-round pick, he'll be, before he steps on an NFL field, he'll be their most legendary quarterback since, Joe Montana. So, that's incredible to me that he has that much to gain. And what do you have to lose? You're just on that list of Notre Dame quarterback bust, and that's a lengthy list too. So there's a lot at stake for CJ Carr, and I think he's built to handle it. I love his mental makeup. I like how he bounced back last year. He was playing as well as anybody toward the end of the year.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I'm very much bought in on this Notre Dame team this year, and I've loved Marcus Freeman and the job he's done there too. I was on this show multiple times banging the drum for the Ravens to throw him whatever amount of money he wanted to try to get him into the building there. Which also, do you think with all the Notre Dame stuff, I forgot to ask this earlier, do you think there's a world where all of the chaos surrounding Notre Dame that Marcus Freeman starts to kind of really push towards the NFL?
I think it's going to be ever present. I think it's just going to be something that we have to deal. It's kind of like Harbaugh at Michigan, both ways, where it was always before he went there, it was, when's Jim Harbaugh going to go to Michigan? Is he going to leave? Where did he leave? He left Stanford to go to the NFL to the 49ers. Then he went to Michigan. And then he went back. And it became that. And I think that's going to be the conversation around Marcus Freeman, which in some ways is flattering because he is a really good football coach, a really good culture builder. I think what he's done there from an elite recruiting standpoint is pretty phenomenal. On the other hand, I was like, well, he could have gone now. And some of it is the demand, how the college football job has changed. Maybe he'll just wake up one day and be like, you know what, dude, I'm just going to not do this, and I'm not going to have the running back come in and ask me for a raise. I'll just go to the NFL and have a GM do it for me. Those things are very real with some coaches in terms of how long they're going to do it. And there's debates about what's easier, NFL or college. I think college has a better shelf life if you do well. But the NFL, the demands of that job might be a little bit different than it is with college these days. Who knows?
Gotcha. No, that makes sense there. And then kind of touched on the Heisman landscape a little bit there. Dom is very much on there is one name and one name only that should be paid any attention to for the Heisman.
I mean, there's more names than that. But
who's the one name?
I mean, I just think it's Jeremiah Smith to lose going into the season. He has the 2-year pedigree as of this moment, and building on top of that would be astronomical. So I just kind of expect it to happen, and to see another wide receiver win the Heisman this year would be electric with how deep the quarterbacks are expected to be. And you still have some high pedigree running backs in this year. So I just think.
And a good receiver class, too.
Yeah. And on top of that, like you mentioned, Cam Coleman down in Texas. So you have top talent at the receiver position. But I just think Jeremiah Smith is like a step above everybody and should put himself at the top of that conversation to start the year.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and disagree from the standpoint he's the best player in college football, most imposing force in college football. It impacts a game like no other player in college football. I think one of the hard parts, though, and I've had this discussion before, at Ohio State you share a little bit. He's going to share with the other receivers. You're going to have games where they blow somebody out and he's not playing in the fourth quarter. And he's not the stat pad type guy. He's got the part checked where he plays well in big games, and it's almost like Devontae Smith won the Heisman because it was like a perfect storm of he was the best receiver. It helped that Jalen Waddle got hurt that season, but he just made play after play in the big games. I think Jeremiah Smith fully capable of doing that. The hard part is it's still a quarterback award. How many votes does he lose to Julian Sayin? If Julian Sayin has a big year. Ohio State's had issues with that. A couple years ago they had Fields and get this right. Fields and Chase Young, I think, were in the same Heisman class, both finalists.
I forgot Chase Young.
Yeah. Because Chase Young was like, a lot of people said, okay, that's the best player in college football, which he probably was that year. So yeah, I agree with you. I just think the hard part is getting that. I'd myself probably lay it on a quarterback. There's not a running back that really stands out. There's not, other than like a Leonard Moore, who could have a ridiculous year and get like 9 or 10 picks. It's either Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman, maybe, right? Because he has to share too.
Because if you have Cam Coleman, then that means Arch had a ridiculous year.
Correct.
And then he's going to get all the credit for Cam, even though Cam's unbelievable.
There's Cam's really good. I mean, those two stand out as All-American type receivers. And then if not, it's going to be one of those quarterbacks. And then I've been asked a lot this summer, okay, who's a quarterback not on that top 7? I mentioned Jaden Mayava earlier. Yeah. He's one for sure. You look at quarterback, Sam Levitt could be one. Keelan Russell at Alabama, I'm keeping a really close watch on him because I'm wondering if he's who they say he is. The arm's there, the 5-star talent's there. And if not, we'll just give the Heisman to that 5-star Tennessee recruit, the high school running back.
I saw that.
David Gabriel George. I mean, after some of those runs, you might as well give him the Heisman now.
Crazy.
Getting into the last couple of them here. So we'll get into some of our fandoms here. So I grew up in Penn State country. Again, I think I said it to Mike too. I don't know if I said it to you. I try to distance myself from the cult that is the Penn State fans. But I still like to see them do well. How should I temper my expectations for Matt Campbell in his first year at Penn State?
Well, I mean, you got a great schedule. And I love Matt Campbell. I think Matt Campbell will crush it there long term. Matt, obviously, I think we're the same age, if not real close in age. He's a little bit older. Mount Union guy was in, I don't know if I told you this or you know already, but, when he was at Mount Union with Larry Karras, number one, that was when Mount Union was the machine. They were not losing D3 ever. And I know you guys some good schools in PAD3 football schools there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mount Union wasn't losing then. He was in a coaching room with Larry Karras, Vince Karras, Jason Candle, Nick Sirianni. Their coaching room was loaded. And I think he learned some of the lessons there. And that's where the culture building comes in. Long-winded way of saying, when Iowa State in 25 years, we're going to look back and be like, man, Matt Campbell crushed it there. And I think he brings those guys there. Rocco Beck's played a ton of football. You have talent. Love the running back room with Peoples and Hansen. They always have defensive talent. You're not playing Ohio State. That helps. I mean, and you're not playing Indiana or Oregon, so that certainly helps. Big one at Michigan. That'll be an interesting game for them.
I was going to say, they looked. I'm pretty sure that's like the toughest one on the schedule this year.
And they've had troubles winning in the big house in the past, but I fully anticipate Penn State to be like an 8-2 or 9-1 team that we're talking about late in the season, as long as they don't have a tremendous hiccup somewhere. And we'll be debating their resume, of course, but Matt Campbell's great for them. I think he was the perfect. Yeah, and I was there, by the way, when they lost to Oregon last year in the double overtime game. And hearing the things that were being said in the tunnel afterward, you were like, yeah, this is bad. They really don't. And then sure enough, he gets fired 2 weeks later. I think Campbell's a good change of pace because as far as that Penn State culture you're talking about, he's a good fit. If you like that kind of coach, which I really do.
No, that makes sense there. Yeah, because I remember watching that game. I was at work that day. I had it on, and I was busy, but I kept looking up, and I saw it was getting close, and I turned around. There were some people at the bar just being like, all right, well, we're right there. We can pull it off. And I just went, it's James Franklin. We're not winning this game. Like, let's just be real. Like, he's been so bad in those top 5 matchups that, like, I just know how this is going to end. I'm not going to get overly worked up about this.
I'm not going to tell you how long it took me to get out of the stadium after writing the story and getting out of stadium traffic that night, where I stayed in a. It's funny, you guys will appreciate this, being PA guys, like or being in PA. I was trying to drive halfway back home. So where I live in Ohio is about 5 hours from Happy Valley.
I know that drive all too well. I used to drive out there to get to Pittsburgh.
And I stayed my hotel was somewhere outside of Pittsburgh. It was real rainy, foggy, horrible drive there. I rolled into that hotel at like 4:30 or 5 o'clock. And they were like, I said, I told you I was going to be here. I was like, thank you so much for holding the room. But it worked out for the best then. But yeah.
That drive is ugly with good weather. Let's just be honest.
I love driving to Pittsburgh. I love the Pittsburgh drive from where we live in Ohio. But when you tack on that extra, I still like the scenery and all that. And I love that stadium, obviously. But man, getting home on that one can be brutal.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then for Dom here, how much stock should he be putting into Pitt? Do they have a chance to win the ACC? Or are we either just outside of the top 25? Is there a path?
I love Pat Narduzzi. He's so good to me at Sporting News over the years. He's been so good to us. Great conversationalist, really upfront, kind of that old school coach I love. I know, the wins and losses sometimes can be frustrating, but as far as a resource to me, he's been great over the years. He's funny. He says what's on his mind, all those things. They're in a tough spot in terms of the NIL piece of it. We were talking about Rasheem earlier, like losing a guy like him hurts, because they've been able to, one of the things Pat's done quietly well, it kind of reminds me of Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. He develops a lot of good NFL players. I mean, and it's quality, like the numbers surprised me a couple years ago when I looked at it. I was like, man, they do have a lot of guys playing on Sunday. And they're not always like, all pros like the Aaron Donalds of the world, but they have a good line of pros that they produce. Like the quarterback a lot this year, like their schedule for the most part. They do have some tough road ones. So they're going to have to manage that.
Yeah.
But they're the classic, and Dom, I'm not telling Dom anything he doesn't already know. They're the classic pull the upset that you're like, wow, how the hell they beat them? Georgia Tech, great example last year, and then turn around and lose one, sometimes two that they shouldn't. So that's the tough part.
Yeah, that Notre Dame game they played last year was the roughest game I've watched in years. That game was over in 35 seconds, and I painstakingly watched about 3/4 of it before I had to turn it off. So I get pain, man. Then we had the one great run, what 2022 with Pickett,
The Kenny
and
Pickett year.
that it was a lot of fun being a Pitt fan that year. And they've kind of done the same Pitt thing over and over, trying to find a good quarterback. We had Holstein for 2 years, who backed up down in Alabama, and he was never going to get a start. So transferred up here. He had a good couple flashes in the pan, and they gave up on him early last year for a true freshman in Mason Heinschel, who looks like he can play every part of a true Saturday quarterback. So I'm excited to see how he grows this year. Um, but obviously, losing guys every single season on NIL is tough,
I know.
to say the least.
Well, and they're kind of in that if they came out of nowhere surprised in the ACC, it's kind of like less of a surprise than Louisville, who
Yeah.
I love Jeff Brom. I love what they've been able to do. Running backs are great. They get Lincoln Kienholz from Ohio State. Clev Lubin's one of these underrated guys that I know you guys probably know, the big edge rusher. He's going to be a good Sunday player. So they've got, and their problem's the same. They knock off the Giants, and then they turn around and lose to somebody that you're like, wait a minute, Louisville's losing? What's going on?
Yeah.
So that's a big thing there.
Pitt lost a bad game last year to Louisville, and like that was their oh, you should have won this game.
Yeah.
And it hurt them down the stretch. It really did.
It's the one sport where you can't have those.
Right.
Like every other sport, you can have like the throw away the tape game. College football just kills you. And then for you too, Ohio alum. Tell us about the action here. What's going on with Ohio this year? What are we looking for as a fan?
Yeah, Dom's not going to want to hear this. So like this happened so long ago. Like our favorite all-time memory at Peden Stadium was a long time ago. It was a Friday night game. They played Pitt when Pitt had Wannstedt and Tyler Palko quarterback.
What was that, 2000 and
yeah, like I want to say early 2000s.
yeah.
Like
you got Palko and Wannstedt. That's like pre 05.
It's like 2004, 2005 range. Fitzgerald wasn't there, or we would have certainly lost.
Oh, okay.
But we play. The game goes into overtime, and Dion Byram, he was an Ohio University defensive back, a hell of a player too. He had a pick six to win the game, and in overtime. So we still talk about. I'll send you guys that link to that play. You're going to be like, whoa, this is crazy. But that same Pitt team beat Notre Dame later in the year. So we'll see. New coach this year, had obviously some controversy, a scandal with the last coach, Smith. That wasn't great. But they bring in John Hauser, a guy that I think will do well there. Fun opener if you love Frank Solich, which we do, going to Nebraska. And so we're excited to see that. I think, you were mentioning the NIL space. That's part of the deal at OU too, where, you're trying to hold on to guys long enough. And they had a MAC championship run a couple years ago. And we love the bowl games. I do think, I want to say this stat is true. I'm going to try it, but I'll fact check it with Asher later. I believe we had the same longest bowl win streak, tied for the longest bowl win streak in the FBS with Minnesota. I think it's 6 or 7 bowl games in a row the Bobcats have won. So we do win those games for your bowl poll when you fill out one of those later. But super excited to see what they do in the MAC. I do like Western Michigan and Toledo are going to be pretty good in the MAC as well.
Awesome.
I was just trying to. Oh, here we go. It says, according to a very broken down website here, it says that they are second to Minnesota.
Yeah. Minnesota, I knew because PJ doesn't lose.
Minnesota's 9 years, Ohio's 7.
The first thing I do when I do our bowl prediction or bowl predictions at Sporting News, and at the end of December, I pick all 45 bowl games, whatever they are, and they're horrible to pick because you don't know who's going to opt out. But the first thing I do is I'm picking Minnesota to win, and I'm picking the Bobcats to win. I don't care who they're playing, and that strategy has worked out at least 9 times, like you said.
There you go. All right, very last one here. We'll let you get out of here. At August 24th, who's your pick to win the national title?
Well, I mean, we have Indiana, and that's such a cheap answer and such a lazy answer for you guys. But I think we have Indiana, Notre Dame in the title game, which I do kind of like the idea of. I think it'd be fun if you
Okay.
had Cignetti. Let's just say they're 15-0 again, uh,
Mhm.
and they have a chance to win back to back, and then Notre Dame sitting there trying to win their first one since '88. I have no problem. I've seen a lot of predictions that say Texas or Georgia or Ohio State or Oregon. Have no problem with any one of those. As to your point, Asher. When there's 6 to 8 teams that could probably win it, those 6 look pretty good.
Mhm.
But we like Indiana over Notre Dame. You can pin this to the board and hold me up to it later. If Indiana goes 7-5, that's fine. I'll defend it later. But that's the pick we have right now.
Gotcha. Well,
No,
just know that
that's
if
a
it
fun
is,
one. Yeah.
it would be. Yeah, just know that if it is Indiana
State
Notre Dame,
Indiana.
you're going to be getting a call from me. Before that game starts,
That'd be great.
we'll talk a little trash before that game there.
Yeah, no, it'll be a lot of fun, and we'll see what happens. But looking forward to it, and hopefully, I did enough here that we can catch up a couple more times during the season. This was a lot of fun for me. You caught me at the right time of the evening, and it's a lot of fun to relax and just talk ball.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time. Again, cannot thank you enough. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
You got to have a good one.
You too.
Thanks, Bill. Take care.
All right, look at that. We got a college football preview show in. Talking a little bit about all sorts of things there. Again, I'm still very much on the Notre Dame train here. I it feels sacrilegious for me, but I'm going to bang the drum for them until until I'm proven otherwise. Dom, again, it's August 24th. We got the season starting. If you had to pick a national champion,
That's such a tough one. I think I've rode Texas the last 2 years, so I don't want to go back to the well, even though I think this might be the best team they've had. I don't know what's going on with Gooseby, and I saw a report the other day, and don't necessarily know what's happening there. I like Oregon a lot, man. Their defense, like Bill was saying, is super, super fun. So I'm curious to see how Oregon does. If they can come out on top of the Big Ten again, it's probably my pick. But there's a lot of question marks. You got about 4 months to kind of iron out all the stuff in between.
I didn't bring it up with him, but I do think it is kind of fun that with all the SEC hype, none of us were talking about an SEC team winning it. Which again, they haven't. They not only have they not won a national title, they haven't played in the last 3 or 4.
Yeah.
The SEC has not made it to.
Yeah, SEC's great college football. However, right now, SEC is not contenders for the title.
Yeah, they've
That
kind of
could
beaten
change this
themselves
year.
up.
Could change with Georgia. I think that's
I was gonna say 22.
Well, that and I guess Texas now.
Well, true. Yeah,
Forget
I guess.
Texas
Yeah.
but
So scratch what I just said there. I messed that up entirely. But outside of that, again,
you got
the normal SEC teams here.
the classic SEC, those 12 schools. Yeah, I mean, in that realm, it's really just Georgia. Bama is still figuring out themselves and what they want to look like going forward. And then, I mean, you have Ole Miss and LSU, who
LSU is poaching NFL guys, so they could be interesting.
I was about to get to that. Yeah, Ole Miss was playing well above their level and expectation last year. They brought Trinidad Shameless back somehow. And then you have LSU, who is LSU at the end of the day. But you bring a bunch of guys in, on NIL.
And we can say what we want about Lane Kiffin. He is a good coach.
For sure, and he's a player's coach.
Objectively, yes. Yeah, guys like playing for him. For, we can discuss why 100%. For,
so
different time, but.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, the SEC, I think, is going to have a different look this season than it has the past few years, just due to the competitive nature of it. Do I believe one of those teams are going all the way? I don't. But I do think it'll be fun again, like it always is.
Yeah. No, that's entirely fair. But again, I'm just excited about football. That means something in 5 days. I can't wait for it. We're getting so close.
Yeah, it's gonna be great, man.
It's
gonna
great.
be great.
All right. Well, you got anything else here? We'll do a
No.
NFL roundup, news roundup later in the week here. Kind of pick up
When
where we
hop
left off
back
on the Deshaun
I was
discussion.
gonna say I'll continue my thoughts on Deshaun. I have a lot of them, but we'll continue that day. And that's it.
Awesome. You got anything else?
Now let's get out of here, man.
Awesome. Let's get out of here. Thank you again, Bill, for taking the time. Hopefully you watch this back
amazing.
and everything's good. We did it justice here. So awesome. Let's get out of here.